Everyone, Chair would like to call to order the regular monthly meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Lake Barrington. It is Tuesday, November 13, 2018. It is approximately 7:11, and I will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Trustee Burke.
Here.
Trustee Mitchell.
Here.
Trustee Perkins. Here. Trustee Rigby.
Here.
Trustee Schaller.
Here.
Trustee Thompson.
Here.
President Richardson.
Here. Would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, agenda item number 4 this evening is approval of the minutes from our meetings last month, both the Committee of the Whole under agenda item 4A and agenda item 4B, that from the regular board meeting here. Are there questions or edits for the clerk at this time? Then Chair would like a motion to approve in block agenda items 4A and B.
So moved.
Does that have a second? Thank you both. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Chair will ask unanimous consent that the record remain open for a period of 5 days for further technical corrections and edits that trustees may wish to offer. Without objection, so ordered. Agenda item number 5, President's remarks. We've got 2 things tonight. I want to thank Jim Thompson and the veterans of LBS for what was a fabulous Veterans Day program on Sunday. It was,
Did you get cake?
I did get a piece of cake. It was great. The crowd was nice, and I really liked how you organized the program so that people in the audience could talk about the veterans and their families whom they wish to honor. I thought that was particularly moving. I enjoy talking about it, and it's nice to see others do the same thing. So my thanks for including me and for hosting it.
Well, thank you very much for being there.
I'm accused of a lot of things, but shyness ain't one of them. So, I would like to at this time ask Brett and Valentina and Barry to come on up and visit with us a little bit. We'll move you to the front of the agenda so you don't have to sit here all night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You know, if you read Dante's Inferno, sitting through these meetings is often described as the 8th level of the Inferno. So, agenda item 13B is why the girls are here with us, and I'll ask the administrator to set this up, and then we'd love for you to introduce yourself, tell us about your business, and then we can take the actions.
Sure. So my name is Brett Gurn. This is my wife, Valentina Gurn. We just recently started a small business, something that we do on the side. We have full-time jobs ourselves, but we have a concession stand that we just opened up in the Barrington Ice Arena. We know Rob Hudson there, who owns the facility along with one of his other partners. And we've been rather entrenched in the sport. Our son, we have an only child who plays, and he's coming up in an age where he's actually spending and being able to kind of get himself around on his own now. So I don't have to chauffeur as much. My wife, however, she's a hockey director, and so we have a passion to it, to be in the rink still, and saw an opportunity there. We just moved to the area actually about a year ago. So we opened up this facility and have had some good success, a lot of great remark and comment to the space, because obviously it was lacking that, and it's gone somewhat through an overhaul within the last year since Rob basically became owner of that facility. And we see some opportunity and thought that this was something to take us to the next level, which is having a liquor license.
That's wonderful. Karen, do you want to talk about what we're going to consider here tonight?
Yeah, so the Gurns submitted their application for the liquor license. They completed the fingerprint and background checks. And their intention is to sell beer and or wine to the patrons of the Barrington Ice Arena. So we saw by the pictures that I shared with you that Valerie took at the Committee of the Whole, how the operation is set up. It's very similar to our existing Class G liquor licenses holdings, which are the Cameron and Battle House. So it's a very similar type of operation, sports related. People can buy their beer there, and then they'll take it elsewhere on the premises to watch the game or whatever, or sit there in that same area at the facility. So
It's our custom to give a chance for everybody to ask questions as well.
Sure, of course.
And thank you. So I'll begin on my left here with Trustee Chris Mitchell.
Hi guys, welcome.
Thank you.
Glad you joined us in the village. And delighted that the business is taking off for you. The only concern I had about alcohol is, and not necessarily connection to ice, but just in terms of being able to control the consumption of it in terms of keeping it out of underage hands, and that was the only thing. And I wondered if you could just give me an idea or some reassurance about how you make sure that doesn't happen.
Well, I know that there's certain criteria required besides proper insurances and also being educated in how we're supposed to handle the distribution of the alcohol. I haven't gotten to all those steps yet because I wanted to see whether, understanding from and speaking with Lisa, that there's a limit or number of licenses issued. So before I kind of got too far into it, wanted to see whether this was something that would be still a consideration, which is why we're here tonight, of course. We, of course, we know or understand there's a certain age that's required by us as the owners or those who will be doing the distribution to the patrons and making sure that, of course, they're not underage. I will say that in the environment of a hockey rink, and we've been in many throughout the Chicagoland and other states, if it isn't, and typically it is offered, but even in the case if it isn't, consumption actually goes outdoors often, where a lot of people tend to do tailgating too. So we hope that we can keep and invite those patrons in the facility and hopefully be able to monitor and not let that become an issue outside of the rink space itself. And of course, then do our diligence, making sure that we're issuing it to the right people. So,
Do you have a standard policy or training that you anticipate for your people?
well, what I understand is there's an online process that we need to go through that gives us an understanding of what we need to do as the responsible business owners. And whatever that requirement is in those stages and steps that are needed, certainly that's going to be our foremost responsibility. Yes.
Thank you.
Trustee Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me reiterate what Trustee Mitchell said. Welcome.
Thank you.
It's terrific that you're here,
Thank you.
and we're looking forward to working with you. I was looking at the pictures you provided us with, and your layout looks very well thought out. And I have only one question, and that is, can anyone walk past your store there without buying something?
No. The funny thing is this is the first business that my wife and I have done. We've worked together in years past. We're in sales, or used to be. I still continue to be in sales. Merchandising was a big part of my background, basically. So what you see there is sort of my expertise, and certainly my wife's, creativity and the assortment that you see there. You can never have enough. If somebody doesn't see something that they need, I guarantee you it'll be there next week.
Right,
So,
exactly.
absolutely.
Terrific, thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Burke.
Hello, welcome.
Thank
Thrilled
you.
to have you guys in the village. I chair the Economic Development Committee, so anytime we're talking about revenue generation in the village, it's exciting. The question that I have for you as it relates to alcohol is, who do you see as the target? Who's the customer? I mean, how do you see them? When are they buying it? For what purpose? Before, after, during? Is it people watching the games and they want to have a cold beverage while they're watching it? Or how do you see that?
It's certainly more adults, parents in this case. It's rather infrequent, I think, that any kids that are there either for a game or practice are being dropped off by an older sibling that might be of age. Typically, it's going to be parents in this case. Through the weeks, typically, it's going to be those that would be there for practices. Weekends tend to be more for the games. And so I wouldn't say or rule out that there wouldn't be consumption while parents are waiting for their kids to go through their hour and a half practice. Certainly during the games, that could be leading up to the game, during the game, after a game for a period of time. Typically with games, you have to be there an hour in advance. Games can be an hour to an hour and a half long. And then, in some cases, not that I would expect much more consumption thereafter, but typically by the time kids come out, it's another 35 minutes before, they're out the doors. So I would find that this is going to be more of a weekend event. The facility is barely open 40 hours a week. There is some occasion, some weeks that might have more games than others. So it will have some fluctuations.
Right. Well, my experience with hockey and concessions is that I have 3 girls, none of them play hockey, but I have a godson who grew up playing hockey in Dallas, Texas. And I went down to visit for work one time. My brother said, hey, we're going to go to Sean's hockey game. And down there they build these giant complexes of multiple arenas. Sometimes it's 2, sometimes it's 4 sheets of ice, right?
Correct.
And up above those 4 sheets of ice, they put these giant bar restaurant complexes, right? And I'm like, okay, I'd love to go see it, And I'm like, we're gonna go sit on the stands and pound on the glass and tell my godson to kill somebody out there. And he goes, oh no, we're going up. And we went upstairs during my godson's thing, and they got big screen TVs up there. We're watching football on TV and drinking Bud Light long necks. And I thought, this is if only my children had played hockey. Taking them to more practices. That was what I envisioned when I thought of it.
Yeah.
But we wish you well.
Thank you.
We're glad to have you.
I want to add to that. What's happening currently is, and I know that these parents are consuming because they aren't staying at the facility at the rink itself. They're actually going just up the street to the end of business for you, for the community. Obviously, either way, same difference. But we'd like to keep those parents or those patrons in their spaces.
Okay.
Trustee Schaller.
Thank you very much. Again, I reiterate what my other colleagues have said. Welcome to the village of Lake Barrington. Obviously, anything that benefits our people and the people who come into the community is beneficial. What are you talked about 40 hours a week. What are the basic hours of operation? Since apparently you're both still working,
Yeah.
do you maintain it or do you have others, or what are the hours?
You want to talk?
There's a general manager by the name of Gino who maintains the ice. Usually it all depends how we have booked our ice throughout the day. So we could have somebody that comes in at 7 o'clock in the morning to skate, and then we start practices usually right after school, which is about 3:30, 4 o'clock. And those practices can run until about 10 o'clock, and then you got a men's league as well. So hours do vary from day to day to day. But nobody runs the concessions, only Brett and I do. And then we have 2 other employees that help us out.
What would be the latest that you would still, that you perceive that the concession would be open during a day?
Weekdays.
Weekdays, weekends.
9:30. I mean, I want to get to.
So it's not a big late night?
Yeah.
It's not late.
No.
Weekends could be later.
Yeah.
Just this past weekend, it was a big tournament. I mean, we had probably 22 games, quite honestly, through the 3-day period. So, I mean, that's big. That's a big draw. They use every sheet of ice throughout Chicago, and so we're fortunate to be one of those selected places. But, no, it's a late afternoon into evening. And if it's not ourselves, it's my folks. I mean, we have responsible adults, basically, that are working the space.
Good. Thank you very, very kindly. Hopefully you'll develop some players that can play for the Blackhawks.
Thanks.
They need it.
Open my son.
We're open ourselves, what?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Trustee Burke.
Thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
Yes. I've been down to the ice arena the past few years, and it gets pretty dismal there. Waiting, just kind of waiting around. And I know they've had a few different events. My daughter takes lessons there, so, but I know they do have events. I think that your setup is very nice. With or without alcohol, it's very nice. It's nice that you have something there for folks to enjoy.
And I just wish you well.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, are you doing services like do you have the sharpener, like do you sharpen blades? and things like
Haven't
that
gotten there yet. It's our intention to.
Yeah.
It's a small
So
investment to
just
have that
maintenance.
also, of course, but there is a separate room, side room, which is an off-ice training facility, which we're managing also, or trying to get booked in. So we have a coach that's very close to us, that's a personal coach to my son, that we can triangulate that space better for us. And that'll happen more as we get into spring and through the summer months, once the team's, season or games end, and basically kids are looking to maintain their ability or their skills to the summer months, the off season. So, yeah.
I'm sure the parents will appreciate your,
I think so.
Yeah, I think so
your
too.
presence there.
Yes.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Trustee Rigby.
Well, thank you. I introduced myself to
Yes.
as I came in. Welcome to the community, as I said. And, Trustee Scheller asked the question I was going to ask about the hours of operation. You answered it, so thank you. Welcome. And I'm going to come see you.
Oh, good.
Maybe have a
Absolutely.
beer.
We'd love to have you.
There you go.
Thanks.
Awesome.
I asked a bit of a different question when we have entrepreneurs come in. What gave you the idea? I know you have a son who plays, but there's a big difference between being a devoted parent who sits faithfully in the stands and saying, I'm going to risk my hard-earned capital on the notion that I can earn a profit by working hard and providing a valuable service. Anybody who's ever started a business knows you don't have just one child now. You have
Right.
two children. You have the business and you have your hockey player. And the business sometimes will be as or not more demanding. What gave you the idea and what made you decide to take a chance? Because that's what our system's about. It's encouraging people to take a chance.
My son trains at the ice arena, so being involved there all spring, I kept on going into the rink and thinking, boy, it sure is empty. There's got to be something here that we can do. And so I had more, Rob Hudson and I go way back. I had more and more discussions with Rob. I said, Rob, what do you think about this idea? Why don't I open up a concession stand and maybe do, some off-ice training? What do you think? He's like, I'm game. Let's do it. Let's give it because you have to understand is that they lost their charter, so there is no more hockey program there. So we are very dependent on all the other hockey programs, like Ice Dogs from Vernon Hills, Chargers from Rolling Meadows, and then we have Lake Zurich High School. We're still trying to get Barrington back in, give them a home, possibly a locker room. We're working maybe with the girls team, but that's the reason why. I just thought, I just need some life in this place again. And so I'm working with Rob Hudson and trying to get the Red Wings organization up and chartered again, so we can have the kids stay in this community and play hockey for this community, not go to Rolling Meadows and Crystal Lake. We want to bring hockey back to Lake Barrington again. So.
That's wonderful. You gave about as good a summary of our way of life as I understand. You saw a need and you wanted to fill it,
Right.
and do so in a way that benefited your family. And I can't think of anything more noble. I'm a big believer in entrepreneurship, as are all my colleagues, and we commend you for that. So I would try to be receptive on our end, and when you need help in the village, we do so in a fair and expedited manner.
Okay, appreciate that. Thank you.
In the spirit of expedition,
Mr. President, just a couple more questions, because that one that came up I was going to ask, and I think you just answered. Barrington is no longer using that. There's not a Barrington club because they got booted. There were serious issues. They got
Yes,
disbanded
that is
and
correct.
dissolved for fighting and parents and everything else. So that was my part of my fear, my hesitancy of being quite so enthusiastic was adding alcohol to the mix. And that's why I said it's alcohol and ice, and
Right.
And that was a concern. So I have that as a standing concern, knowing some of the issues and things that went on way before your time have gone on traditionally. So I do have some hesitancy there. And I think that concerns me. If people are going outside with their alcohol, then that would be in violation of this license. If they leave,
Right.
if they leave the premises with a can of beer, and I assume there's no glass,
Right.
it's only cans. If they leave the premises, they are subject to violation, and your license is at risk.
Right. So most hockey organizations, along with parents and players, there is what's called a USA Hockey Code of Conduct,
code.
right? As well as the organization itself. You sign that code of conduct, you are liable. I mean, that's a contract. So they cannot be in violation. I, as a hockey director, I work as a hockey director in Winter Club of Lake Forest. I know these rules. So I am okay with telling somebody, you're out of here. I have no problem, just to avoid conflict. I don't want conflict.
Well, and you don't want to lose your liquor license.
No, but I don't want to lose my liquor license either. So,
On you, and that's if that, and I appreciate that, knowing that you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, I do.
Exactly. I don't want to use code words. It was ugly, and they
do it at
deserve to
Winter
be
Club
out on
all
their
the
butts.
time. They have a bar also, and I do it all the time. I ask parents to kindly leave. You have to
Thank
leave
you,
the premises.
because that is my concern, that and you're putting me more at ease,
Right.
because I could just see an issue where you're trying to start a business and get this to take off, and you've got some real people that have no respect, and hey, I'm going out in the parking lot, whatever you say, and this woman or one of her colleagues will be right there. I can promise. And so I'm good.
And we'll make sure we'll post signs, no alcohol outside these doors. You cannot take, we'll make sure that we post that, so people.
And your license is at risk, so I think you understand that.
I do, yes.
It's like there's no second chances.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. President, I appreciate
Oh,
your
no,
time.
no, no. As unaccustomed as somebody ethnically Irish is with the notion of being overserved.
I wasn't going to go into Notre Dame at all. I was not going to mention
At
Notre Dame.
my cousin's house on New Year's Eve when there's only one shot glass worth of Jameson left. Then we have a whole bunch of police.
I was trying not to make this personal.
That's all right, take a shot. Stand down. We're grateful, and we wish you the best of luck, and please let us know when we can be of help. If there is no further question or comment from members of the board, then Chair would like to move agenda item 13B, Class G liquor license. Excuse me, Brett and Valentina Gurn, owners of Microplex LLC, have applied for a Class G liquor license. Their business is selling prepackaged snack and energy foods, canned or bottled energy and soft drinks, along with some basic hockey necessities such as tape, laces, and water bottles for convenience. Their concession is located in the Barrington Ice Arena, located at 28205 West Commercial Avenue in Lake Barrington. Chair would like a motion to approve ordinance number 2018-0-22. Thank you, Lisa. An ordinance amending the Lake Barrington Village Code regarding section 2-3-6, quote, classification of licenses, close quote, close paren period. May I have that motion, please? By Trustee Burke, seconded by Trustee Thompson. Thank you both, gentlemen. The clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes. Bon chance and bon voyage.
Oh, merci beaucoup, thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, thank you.
The puck has been dropped.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Is there anybody else seeking? This is agenda item 6. It's the first opportunity in the agenda for the public to address the board on non-agenda items.
Good evening, and I'm Maria Peterson, as you all know, and I'm just here to say thank you. Unfortunately, the outcome was not the way many of us would have liked, but as Mayor Richardson said, or President Richardson said, I took a chance, and I made it a really good effort. I got really close to winning, and I ran because I saw a need in our district for adequate and fair representation, and somebody who would be present, like I am here tonight. But there were lies that were told and that overshadowed the person I really am. And well, it is what it is. And the district will have to deal with the 4 years of that person. I'm a citizen with good intentions, and I wish Lake Barrington all the success that it has had and continues to have. And you all have a great evening.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 7 this evening is the consent agenda. If there's nothing before us, so we can move to agenda 8, which is the treasurer's report. Mrs. Hirsch.
Good evening. So we'll start with item 8A, and that is the resolution for the estimate of the amount of the 2018 tax levy. As before, you believe you have a copy of that in your board packet. So if you look at that, it's item 8A, you'll see that the levy is specifically being raised to provide for police services. And that number is $488,000, and this will be the 5th year in a row that has not been changed. So that's up for, that's a vote, correct, Karen?
Yes, at the end.
It's a resolution, and next month we'll pass the ordinance to follow the resolution if this is approved this evening. Should we keep continuing, or do we stop for that? Or?
No, we do it at the end with
Okay.
8A through 8.
Thank you. Okay, so then we'll go on to the financial statements, and so before you have the financial statements for the 5 months ended September 30th, 2018. So we are 42% through our fiscal year. Let's look at the flash report on page 2. You'll see we have $2,670,000 of assets, current liabilities of $794,000, equity of $1,876,000, and so our total liabilities and equity equal our assets at $2,670,000. So revenues year to date for the 5 months ended September 30th, excuse me, I have brain freeze there.
Total revenues are $1,489,000. Total expenses are $1,079,000 for net income of $409,000, almost $410,000. As we've done in the past, we'll break out below, you'll see below that bolded line, we're breaking out what we call extraordinary items. When we do that, our regular operation net income and loss for this year, for 2018, is $344,000 compared to last year at this point of $323,000. So you see we're pretty much tracking the same at this point. Sales tax is a little bit higher, as is income tax at this point compared to last year. Okay, we can flip forward to page 11 and 12. That's the actual budget report for general fund. And you can see about 3/4 of the way down, we're at 50% budget to actual for revenue. Real estate taxes have been almost fully collected. They're at 98%, so even though we're not even halfway through a year, we've collected all our real estate taxes for this year, so that does pull the percentage up. And that same comment for business licenses, and liquor licenses as well. Those are collected at the beginning of the year. Page 12, for total expenditures, you'll see we're 36% actual to budget, so we're trending a little bit ahead of budget. I will mention that when the Old Barrington Road paving is actually put on the books, this number's going to jump way up. At that number, the 563 road maintenance, it's about 6 lines down. We have $563,000 budgeted for road maintenance. A large portion that's already been spent on the Old Barrington Road paving project, have just not been recorded yet. So that percentage will jump quite, up from 36% actual budget. Any questions on the budget at this point?
Yeah, I have a question. I'm a little bit uncertain. I know when we did the Old Barrington Road thing, there were some funds that we had available, which is why we did that. So I'm not really clear on the accounting.
Okay, well, that's a very good question, because if you look on the income side of the budget, and that is back to page 11, and that is under other. This is developer impact fees. It says $400,000. So it's going to be a net zero impact to the budget when we actually do the recording. So the actual percentage for the revenue budget to actually will go up, as will the expenses.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
But that's a very good question.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
And this zeroes out the Weineke Trust now with.
Yeah, that has been recorded. The parking lot paving has been recorded. That's in property maintenance exterior.
Yeah.
We did collect that cash already from the trust, which should be mine. Yes, it's under other as well. Weineke Trust Capital, $88,313 was collected from that. So that account is been cleaned out.
That well is dry.
Okay, so page 13, we'll go to the motor fuel tax fund. Not really any activity there this month. It does grow between $9,000 and $11,000 each month. And this past month, September, we collected $9,000 from the state in that fund. There's no other expense anticipated this year. So, page 17 is the water sewer fund. That fund has net current assets of $1,400,000. That's our current assets, that's our current liabilities. And I think remaining in there, there's about capital expenditures planned about another $140,000 remaining in fiscal year 19. So we have obviously plenty of capital, which is available and for the amounts that we're budgeted to spend. Okay, and then our last fund, page 21, is the open space fund. The operations account is $188,000 to spend. The $342,000 in the 6563 account is solely for paying bond payments. And with the purchase of the property by the end of the year and any other building improvements going on at the barn or the farm, that will be on 188. Any questions on the financial statements? Okay, we go on to the warrants. I'll start with my apologies. Initially, there are basically 4 warrants this evening. Warrant A has the majority of our expenses. There are a number of what we'll call unusual requests this month, which I'd like to highlight. Ignorance and Condell for $15,820. That is the balance due on the new HVAC system that was installed. That was approved by the board back in September. Corrective asphalt materials for $13,196. That was for sealant on the Savannah subdivision. That was approved by the board back on October 9th. Let's see, Cuba Township for pavement patching of $15,386. That was approved by the board as well back on October 9th, and that was on Woodland Drive. So impact fees were used for those last 2 items, for the sealant and for the pavement patching on Woodland Drive. First bank card, you'll notice that the credit card seems a little high this month. There are a number of Barrington charges on there. Haven't really gone through the trouble of completely detailing those out for you tonight, but when we have all the expenses in from the Barrington, I will let you know what the Barrington end up costing in totality. I don't have that available tonight. And then lastly, actually I believe Trustee Rigby may talk a little bit about in his report on insurance. We have the insurance premiums for your approval this evening as well for IML RMA. And that's the liability insurance and property insurance. Okay, so to pull out some of these items that are different, so you'll notice warrant B is dedicated for some Lake Barrington staff travel, meals, and lodging reimbursement. And this is done in accordance with our policy, reimbursement policy, section 3.6 of the manual. So it does detail Lisa and Village Clerk Lisa Pinatolapa and Village Administrator Karen Dalton Lang attended various conferences last month. These are, with everything has been sort of detailed to the penny for the most part. I would like to mention that Karen, Administrator Dalton Lang, did receive a scholarship from ICMA,
one from ICMA and one from ILCMA.
Okay, that's why I'm confused.
The
Okay.
ICMA covered almost $700 in the registration, and the ILCMA covered transportation and hotels and food.
Thank you. So while the village is net zero out of pocket, they are listed here for your approval because we are paying those bills with this after this warrant is approved. So that's why those are listed there, and it's 2 pages to that warrant of various items for staff travel. Warrant C is your normal sort of last expenses that come forward to the board. Since the board meeting is relatively late this month, there's just 4 of them. They're smallish ones, just some variable expenses. What I do need to do, and this is kind of my last warrant, which went unnoticed when the warrant A was first put together. There was a reimbursement request for one of the trustees on warrant A, and according to our policy, that requires a separate roll call vote. Trustee Burke has reimbursement for the trade show he attended, the shopping.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask that.
Yeah,
You went
so-
shopping?
I went shopping.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell them how much it was. Tell them how much it was.
I know I need to find it. It's $170.
That's what it was.
$170.05, and that was I have to find it here. It got buried on warrant A, my apologies, I caught it after the warrant was put together, and so we do need a separate roll call vote by the trustees just to approve that expense for a trustee.
It's so awkward.
So it's a little awkward, I apologize.
It's called a trustee shaming.
I was trying to do it on the fly without being. So,
Where's mine eraser?
no, it was for attending a trade show conference for shopping center.
I'm sorry, the inmates got control.
I know, and I'm trying to find it.
It's about the we got
Oh, thank you, yes, yes, thank you.
on warrant A.
Yeah, Chicago Navy Pier 1017 Convention, Chicago deal making hosted by International Council Shopping Centers, attended by also with Kathleen Scott, but her expenses is on her separately. She's does not need to have a separate roll call vote. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. I'm leave it up to Lisa to figure out how to do the approval. That is the end of my report. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Probably took an omnibus too, how much did we pay for that?
So Jim, do we do the roll call vote before we do the motion to approve the items A through E, or do we
Actually, you could put the roll call as another item under
So
the consent.
it could be item F, a roll call vote for trustee Burke's expenditure of $170.05 for the ICSC conference.
You okay with that too? Peggy?
Yes.
Okay. So I added an item F, roll call vote for trustee Burke, reimbursement for attendance at the ICSC conference in the amount of $170.05.
And everybody else is taken care of on this.
Yeah.
But we covered the others under
Under the warrants.
the in block.
Yes, we'll be able to.
All right. Are there questions for the treasurer at this time? Thank you. Thank you very much. Nicely done. We would like to now proceed with a motion on block to approve agenda items 8A through 8E.
Yes.
8A, pass resolution number 2018-R-13, a resolution for the estimate of the amount of a tax levy in compliance with the requirements of the Truth in Taxation Act. B, approve the financial statements as of September 30th, 2018. C, pay bills in the amount of $343,347.36.
Which I need to amend for you to less than 170.
Oh,
Excuse me, yeah, so it's 343, 177.29.
thank you. As amended by the treasurer, as listed on the accounts payable warrant A dated November 13, 2018. D, pay bills in the amount of $2,972.57 as listed on the accounts payable warrant B dated November 13, 2018. And E, pay bills in the amount of $448 as listed on accounts payable warrant C dated November 13, 2018. May I have a motion to consider in block?
So moved.
Thank you, trustee Rigby. May I have a second, please, by trustee Scheller. Thank you both, gentlemen. Clerk, will please call the roll.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Scheller?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes. Jim, does the motion regarding Andy's require a resolution number, or is it just?
No, it's just a motion.
Okay. Agenda item 8F, pay bills in the amount of $170.05, as set forth by Administrator Dalton Lang regarding travel reimbursement for trustee Andy Burke to the ICSC. May I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by trustee Mitchell, seconded by trustee Thompson. Thank you both. Clerk, will call the roll, please.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
I abstain.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
Trustee Scheller?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9 is the administrator's report.
Sure. First up, you saw the Tarkowski property listed. I'm happy to report that with the assistance of Ed Sullivan, he has been able to encourage Lake County into taking action on the Tarkowski property. He indicated that the county board has already voted to fast track the demolition, and they are working with a demolition contractor, and depending upon that person or that company's timeline, it could happen as soon as this fall and as late as next spring. So I'm anxiously waiting to hear when they're starting work on that. So as many as you know, the house that was on that Tarkowski property, which is actually unincorporated Lake County, was in a state of great disrepair. And my calls to Lake County went unanswered, but when we retained Representative Sullivan, they got answered. So I'm happy to report that. Also, I attended a meeting organized by BACOA regarding PACE dial ride service to our community. The average number of riders is about the same at about 10 to 15 per month. And the projected cost for this upcoming year is expected to be similar as it was last year. I think it was around $4,500 due to increased PACE funding. And in addition, at our meeting, it was noticed that there was a little portion of Wakanda that was included in the PACE contract. So we, well, actually, I called Wakanda Township, and they said, no, we have a PACE service. So they, like, notified PACE and Bacoa, and they're removing that from the contract, so that'll save an extra $1,000 there. So it's expected when we get the final report and everything, it'll be about the same as last year. Also, I attended a SWACO board meeting in October. They're finalizing the recycling guidelines, and it'll be up on our website in the next couple of days, if not already. They just sent out the final ones today. But they are trying to get the word out of a cohesive recycling message to all of the Lake County residents, because we have waste management, another town might have group, et cetera, and there's a lot of unknowns. You know, we still get a lot of people that put their recycling in a plastic bag and then put it in their dumpster, the garbage toter, and the recycling toter, and that just gets thrown away because it tears up the machines. The machines can't tear through those plastic bags, which is why the little ones you have to take back to the grocery store. They're not recyclable. But that, between that and all the issues with China not taking our unclean recyclables, they're looking for ways to get that level of cleanliness up so that they can be exported to other countries, because quite frankly, most of our recyclables get shipped out of the country to other developing nations.
It's a nationwide problem, not just.
Not just us, you're absolutely right, it's nationwide. Also, not too long ago, I found out that the village owns a 1 acre lot off of Anderson Road. I wasn't aware of it, but the location is immediately adjacent to and north of the north property line of Lakeland Estates and east of the Saddlewood subdivision, Wakanda, off of Anderson Road. I spoke with Attorney Bateman, and he recalled that the village had bought this lot, I'll say a long time ago, I don't remember what you told me, Jim.
We were in litigation opposing its redevelopment, and in fact, we prevailed in litigation, but part of the settlement of the litigation was we agreed to buy the lot.
Yeah. So, you know, when we...
Won,
right?
right?
Yeah. So this came up because one of the trees on our lot kind of fell over onto the property in Wakanda. And that resident called me and said, you own a lot there. I'm like, what? And sure enough, the Lake County GIS showed that. So I did have that portion of the tree that was falling onto her lot removed. It's less than $500 to do that. But I think what I'll be investigating and reporting back in the future is the probability of divvying that up to adjacent property owners and just getting rid of it. It has no value to us. It's just kind of a wooded lot with a wetland in the middle of it. And we're not
Are there
making
two abutters?
There's a whole bunch of abutters. There's,
So we
yeah,
share it, we split it.
it would be more than two, because there's a couple properties on the south, a property on the west, and a few properties to the north, like other property lines. I don't know if they'd go for it.
It's 1 acre,
Yeah.
Yeah.
there's short fence lines.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if they'd go for it, but it's either we should be maintaining it or not own it.
Does it have a market value?
No, we can't. It's
not
not really a buildable lot. There's like a big wet area right in the middle of it. So even though it's not a wetland, I think that was the reason why there was a lawsuit
You
passed.
would now call it isolated wetland.
Yeah,
Maybe we can raise some cattle on it.
very isolated, yeah. Anyway, so more on that in the future, I think. And last but not least, I'd like to thank the Barrington Countryside Fire Department. I spoke with Chief Pryor last week, and he's agreed to provide volunteers to raise and lower our flags. Unfortunately, it's become a very commonplace occurrence with all the tragedies that have been happening in our United States. And it was just something weighing very heavily, and he agreed to do it. That's it.
Questions for the administrator? Thank you. Agenda item 10 is the clerk's report.
It's
been a little bit of an issue for some residents that like Barrington doesn't have a convenient location to dispose of medication. So it was nice that we recently found out that Walgreens is going to provide free safe medication disposal option in all drugstores in 2019. So the Barrington location will be convenient for people to go.
They already have it in some, they have it in the Lake Reserve one.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where Lisa's been directing people to call it.
Yeah, they want something closer. So this will be nice for everyone. So we'll put that out there to everyone once it becomes.
It's a big problem, so I'm glad that we
Yeah. Let's see, November 28th is the last day of yard waste collection, and I also want to remind everyone for the month of November, you won't be needing yard waste stickers. So that's a nice perk. And no need to remind everyone that Village Hall will be closed on Veterans Day because that was yesterday. But thank you to the veterans for their service.
That's why you were frantically running around all day.
Is trash collection delayed this week?
It is not.
Oh, okay.
I put out 12 yard waste bags with 12 stickers tonight before I came up here. Because we did it all weekend long.
You better go cut them off.
You need to read our newsletter.
I'm going over there.
You don't have a ring doorbell, do you?
My job is, I'm like Gus Portocales in the Big Fat Greek Wedding, nobody tells me anything. But it's the last of the season, and the yards look good, but there's 12 bags, 10 or 11, 12 bags out there.
Your yard looks fantastic, by the way.
Bless you.
So
Bless you.
It's the only yard that has.
Did you give Lynn a break?
Yeah.
It was really out
You
there.
know what he needs.
Oh, yeah, well, we had a little help. Nice young man and I spent last weekend, and then we had some more folks today. Thank you, Susan. And on the medication, you know, we've heard the presentations on the opioid crisis. And a lot of that is because prescription drugs become the starting point for this. So that's wonderful. Are there questions for the clerk on her report? We can remove that to the agenda item 11. And under A, I'll kind of do my reports together, A and D. Tomorrow we're going to, based on the vote of just a moment ago, tomorrow I want to thank Karen and Andy and Peggy and Ryan McLaughlin for helping me all kind of put together. We're going to issue a press release tomorrow. The title being Lake Barrington announces no increase in property tax levy for fifth, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutive year. For a fifth year in a row, the Village of Lake Barrington has announced it will not be increasing its portion of the property tax levy in 2019. The village's ability to hold the current tax levy is indicative of both the village's disciplined management of taxpayer dollars and our commitment to economic development, which includes the opening of the Speedway convenience store location in 2017. As a result, the village has been able to limit its portion of residents' Lake County property tax bill, which is 3.7% of the total property tax bill, with 1.46% dedicated to open space funds and the remaining 2.25% making up the village operating, general operating fund. The remaining 96.3% goes to construction programs and departments such as School District 220, fire departments, and Lake County government. Then a few quotes for me, and it just basically says that we've been able to eliminate this need for a property tax levy while still continuing to provide garbage and recycling pickup for residents and 24/7 policing by the Lake County Sheriff's Department. So we're going to make sure people know that because we've all worked hard to get it. And by the way, Mr. Bateman was also a contributor to this effort. I failed to mention him a moment ago. Was the son of the whole being greater than the sum of the parts. All of us have worked hard to get to this result. We want to make sure that we tell the people who we represent that we focus on this carefully for them. And we are one of the last, right, that does the garbage and recycling.
Yeah.
That's a big deal. Because if we didn't do that, people would have to buy the services themselves, and they would pay significantly more than they pay
Yes, they would.
as a result of this. So.
We save the garbage companies, I mean, just the fact that they just issue one invoice. Like when you think about the towns where they have multiple customers, and then you have collections and everything else, so, yeah, it's a good deal.
Everybody wins here. So those are my reports tonight. 11B, Community Relations, Special Events, and Veterans Affairs. Trustees.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I have a few things to report here, so y'all just sit back and relax.
A lot of
There's
pages.
a lot of pages here.
That's like a book report.
I know it's like a book report. The veterans of LBS, I would like to thank, not like to, but do thank Village President Kevin Richardson for attending their Sunday, November 11th Veterans Day ceremony, and also for his kind words of remembrance at the event, especially about his dad, another veteran. There were over 150 people attending, and the famous veterans cake ran out before everyone could have a piece, have a slice. The veterans are now doing Toys for Tots with the U.S. Marine Corps. We have, the veterans have boxes at both Lodge at the Shores entrances through December 11, and people who do not have the opportunity to purchase new toys can certainly provide a check into the boxes. The checks will be made payable to the veterans of LBS. This Thursday, November 15th, Trustees Schaller and Thompson and Village Administrator Karen Dalton-Lang will be working with the LBS Community Relations Commission. They've asked us to come in and talk about the village, and they've put together a nice long list of questions. Village Administrator Karen Dalton-Lang has worked very judiciously on. Thank you very much. And they're thinking about doing this either on a semi-year or quarterly basis in the future, so we'll see what happens. Next, I previously reported I'm working on a concept to bring music to village residents at Friar Farm in 2019. I have a kickoff meeting with people who have responded to my notes about the program on Monday evening, November 19th. So we'll see where that takes us. The village logo wall mural update. As you can see, the Barrington High School version of our logo, village logo, is not what I was looking for it to be. I'm talking to the art department about another version, as well as talking to, frankly, some other people who I know are good at doing art like that. So I'm hoping that before the month of November is out, we can fix that issue. I've taken another idea about working by using Friar Farm. I came up with another idea. You know, Halloween is to me an excellent opportunity to do two things. Number one, provide village children with a fun and secure Halloween event location. And number two, provide village businesses with an opportunity to showcase their food-related products. So I've been preparing a letter to send to village food-related home businesses with a basic direction of my idea for their input to see where that goes. Next but not finally least, the Barrington 220 School District Referendum Advisory Committee held its last meeting on Monday evening. There was considerable discussion about the best and most important usage of a referendum and its dollar amount. Consensus was made and will be presented to the school board executive committee for their discussion as to it as a recommendation. Also, regarding the marketplace, thanks to President Richardson, I've been able to contact the owner, Mr. Al Paz, and he and I will be speaking tomorrow morning regarding moving the farmers market back to the marketplace. Have some good ideas about that, and he and I will chat, and I will keep you up to date on what we're doing. Finally, and last, focus group letters went out today, inviting people to come to our focus groups, and thanks so much to Karen Dalton-Lang and Lisa for all the work they've done on this. It's been just wonderful to have them do this for us. So I will next be reporting about the focus groups. Thank you very much. That's it.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to hearing those results. And thank you, because you've played a decisive role in this, and it wouldn't be happening without you. 11C is Economic Development, Trustee Burke.
Thank you. We did an extensive review of economic development activity prior to this meeting, so for those who may be following along at home, a summary of such would be that the Economic Development Committee continues to make great progress. A number of us attended a International Council of Shopping Centers convention downtown last month to learn more about how to drive retail businesses into your village. It was a great learning experience and has us with a lot of ideas about what we can do to draw business to our village. Tied in with that, we've learned that the success of the beautiful new speedway on Route 14 has generated a buzz and generated interest in our community as a place where people would like to do business. In order to help attract those folks, we are working on improving the number of economic development tools that we have available in our toolbox to help attract. That is all work in process. And to continue to assist with the growth and success of our existing businesses, we're continuing to work on a number of initiatives for streamlining, improving and making more efficient everything from a permitting process to the business license process. So I want to thank Kathleen Scott from Scott Partners, Karen Dalton Lang for their continued extremely hard work, dedication and hard work to our efforts of economic development, and that's my report.
Questions for Trustee Burke? Thank you. 11F, Finance, Human Resources, and Administration. Trustee Wrigley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two items, both are insurance related. It occurred to us during a recent insurance committee meeting that we have not really discussed property casualty and liability insurance with the board. We thought it would be a good time just to update you on what we're doing, since you've already passed the word A tonight, which pays the insurance premium for the next year. We have a total of six areas of liability: general fund, water and sewer, open space, workers' comp, and public official bonds. The total bill for next year will came in at $36,926, but if we pay that bill by Friday of this week, they reduced that by 1%, which comes in at about $36,500. So now that the warrant is passed, we'll be able to get that reduction. I wanted to keep you informed about our liability and what we've got. Karen and Peggy walked around our properties with the Illinois Municipal League risk management assessment individual, and he actually, looking at some of the properties we had, he actually reduced our bill by some degree. And the good news is, if that, in the event of a catastrophe, and his numbers were wrong, Illinois Municipal League will pay the full actual replacement cost, not just the insurance cost. In our general liability, our insurance is $1 million per occurrence, with $8 million in excess liability per event, with a total of $16 million in aggregate for a year. Our automobile liability is $1 million per occurrence, with the $7 million in excess liability. The others are just almost extensions of what we've been paying in the past that we previously approved. So I just wanted to keep you informed about insurance-wise. I know it's a big concern, but our risk management assessor says we're in the ballpark, and we feel comfortable with our limits here.
We appreciate it, because that is awfully important, and you never realize how important it is until something happens and you're not covered.
Well, that was the easy part. The hard part, and I want to thank Peggy and Karen for saying, if Randy can explain this, then they'll sure understand. Thank you for really important.
Those were my exact words.
That's his exact. They're forever itched on my little head. We've been on several occasions to discuss the employee insurance, and we had the following goals as we went into these meetings. We want to provide the employees with a choice of health plans, either HMOs or PPOs. Given the rising costs, have both the village and employees share, will both of the employees and the village share in this cost increase, and we do have a cost increase this year, which we didn't have last year. We want to incentivize healthcare decisions and medical expense savings on the part of the employees. We want them to take a bigger role in the decision making. And we've done some tweaking and offer some bells and whistles for their insurance plans, and I'll discuss that in a minute. And we endeavor to keep the village's maximum exposure in alignment with the 2018 exposure. And to that end, the committee will be recommending at the December meeting to keep the same HMO and PPOs that we've had this past year. The PPO is the preferred provider option. The PPO has transitioned to more of a hybrid between the two groups, Tier 1 and Tier 2. The use of Tier 2 providers results in a higher deductible and a higher maximum out-of-pocket expense. This year, we learned that many of the doctors and the hospital itself at Good Shepherd are Tier 2, so that those expenses go up in the PPOs. Overall rates have increased about 1% for the HMO plan, but about 15% for the PPO. We have 2 employees, by the way, on HMO and 2 on PPO. The committee will be recommending that the employee share of the premium remain at 10% for HMO and increase from 15 to 20% for the PPO if that plan is chosen. Last year, the DAC card was limited to $500 out of pocket for the HMO and could be used immediately. The thought there was that if the in-network providers are used, the employee deductible is 0, and the maximum out of pocket is $1,500 per employee and $4,500 per family, leaving the employee with about $1,000 of exposure. Now, last year, the PPO plan required the employee pay the first $500 out of pocket, and the DAC card would cover the next $3,000, with the employee covering the last $500. However, if an employee uses Tier 2 provider, that employee could be out of pocket an additional $2,550. This year, the committee is recommending a couple of changes we think will incentivize healthy choices. The first is the creation of a flexible savings account, and the second is the health savings account. Both of these plans have virtually no administrative costs to the village. Now, the FSA goes with the HMO, and it can be utilized by an employee using the HMO plan. It allows for a pre-tax payroll deduction of up to $2,700 a year, and it can be used for division and dental. And the full amount opted for when signing is available to the employee beginning on the 1st of January. In other words, the full amount is available to him or her immediately. I guess they're all hers. The total FSA must be used in the same calendar year, and importantly, it can't be carried over. But it's a pre-tax saving. And so if they opt to do that, they need to use it or they're going to lose it. Now, with the HSA, the Health Savings Account, it can be utilized by an employee choosing the PPO plan. It also allows for pre-tax payroll deductions of up to $3,500 for the individual and $7,500 for the family. It can be used for dental and vision, but it can be rolled over and accumulated year to year. So it's truly a savings account. If you don't use it, then you can roll over and use it. And the other thing that's nice about it is you can carry it with you, even if you leave the employment here. The committee will be recommending that the $500 upfront DAC limit for HMO remain the same. We'll also be, now this is the hard part. I'm not sure that I understand this one yet, but we also will be recommending that the PPO plan and HSA would be established whereby the village would deposit $750 or $1,500 per family. And the employee can choose how much, if any, they wish to contribute via pre-tax payroll deduction. The employee would not access any DAC funds until $1,500 has been spent. The essence of this is the village $750 contribution and then an additional $750 that the employees contribute. The suggestion DAC card amounts will be $4,500 for individual and $9,000 for the family. The total plan out of pocket is about $6,550 for an individual, or $13,500 per family. The bottom line is that in the worst case, this plan, the worst case plan would cost the village about $84,000 as compared to $75,000 last year. That's the between 11 and 12% increase in costs for the insurance. The employees' increase will be about 15%. It's been said if you think you know a lot about health insurance until you actually use it. We got a lot of feedback from the employees based on what we did last year, and we learned a lot, and they learned a lot. And unfortunately, Joe Liberty, our insurance agency, has volunteered to come in and sit with the employees and talk them through this plan, so they'll get a better idea of what they're really getting into, what kind of coverage they have, and how to maximize their dollar as they go forward. Lastly, I want to thank Peggy and Karen for their diligence in putting all this together for us. This is, a miniature version of rocket science. And so we'll finalize these. We hate to bring it to you this late, but we don't get the numbers of what this costs until after the 1st of November. This is our first opportunity to talk to you. So I'm available on an individual basis if you have additional questions or to talk through some of these things, as well as Karen and Peggy.
Was there any surprise that came out of this right away?
The big thing was, last year they really reduced the cost of the PPO, and it pulled a lot of people in. And then the insurance company bumped that up once they get, and they liked the PPO. Now they bumped it up, and that's why there's such a big difference this year. But we're in line with other municipalities. And the other thing is, Joe does a great job. He gives you the bottom line up front. This is the plan you ought to get. We can play with it a little bit, and then he backs it up with 39 pages of other plans that we could opt for. But here's why this one looks, for what you do, that's the best for you.
I remember when I started my business, we struggled with healthcare because we were a small company, and I'm sympathetic to the employees' challenges there because it got real expensive real quickly, especially since then. That's a problem.
It's passing $20,000 per employee.
Are there questions for Trustee Rigby?
I just have one clarification.
Good, I figured I screwed this up.
No, it was just the total villages, what did you call it?
Liability?
Yeah, liability, 75 to 84.
84.
That's if, that includes the premiums that the village pays. It would also include if every dollar was spent on the DAC card that's available for every employee. So that's the word, we call it the
That's
worst
worst
case.
case.
We call it the worst case scenario, so if everything is spent on everything, so.
That number's in the budget. That number would be in the budget as well. We have a
Yeah.
budget for the highest number.
Yeah, and that's what we did last year, budget for the highest number, and then hopefully, if all goes well, the number actually comes in much less.
Further questions? Thanks for what is a tedious but important, mission critical job here, Randy. Grateful, Okay, we can move then to agenda item, 11F, open spaces and village facilities. Trustee Mitchell.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We're going to see your home movies tonight?
Yeah. Movies. Not really good pictures, but there's lots of stuff to look at here. Imagine in your house now, when you bought that house.
Talking to microphone, please.
Microphone. All right.
There might be one over there. The handheld, if you want.
It's working. Testing. Oh, look at that. That's even better. Imagine the house you're in when you bought it, if you owned it for 25 years and did nothing. Except clean it, maybe. Okay? What kind of shape would your house be in? Think about that. Where's mine? There it is. I'll wake up. comes back on. Technology.
I think you have to hold it down once, and then you click it once
No,
fast.
it's just start.
Yeah, it takes a while, there it goes.
All right.
Should be word of mouth.
There we go.
Sorry.
Now there. Dim the lights. What I want to do is give you.
This is
give
also
you-
in the report, that better AV stuff.
Exactly, make it look
Is
better.
that too much?
Is give you an overview of our assessment, facility assessment report for this building, for the Village Hall. And I'm going to take you through some of the high points here tonight. If we can get to the right place here. Come on. No, Lisa, still. It doesn't like me because our license for this has expired. A new challenge.
Are you using a PowerPoint?
Yeah. Our subscription has expired.
It shouldn't, because we're all,
That's what I thought. I think it's
Yeah.
just not logged into this one. Let's see if we can make it. Oh, come on. Try to fool it.
I don't mean to be rude, but I
Yeah.
have a suspicious person out there, and I don't want my partner to go by themselves.
Oh.
I don't have anything to report.
But I want to award or announce that this lady was a star in the Southwest Lake County Lifestyle magazine, and she's featured in one of the articles about officers in Lake County. So,
And I have not seen it because the guy never even sent me a copy. So he's taking pictures of it and sending it to me, and there's supposed to be somebody, okay, I was gonna say, I didn't see you walk out, I'm like, who's walking into the room? Taser!
That's right.
Oh, my God.
But everything is under control while he is trying to work on this, and some of the break-in and the robberies that we've had appear to be
Yeah,
diminished.
it's been good, hopefully there's not an issue, I think that we, found the people that we think were involved, and so it's been, but I don't wanna say the word because I don't wanna jinx myself, but it's been good. So let's hope it stays like that.
okay,
Okay,
Thank you.
Trustee Mitchell, would you want to give an abbreviated report, and then we can.
While you pray there, while you
I'm
pray.
sorry to say that was a fine report.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you, Jim. Why don't we move on to, while you're working on that, 11G is Public Safety and Gated Communities, Trustee Scheller.
Thank you, President. I want to thank Administrator Dalton Lang for updating the emergency operations plan. I think the last time we did this is probably 7, 8 years ago, and it was nowhere near as comprehensive as what we have at this point in time. We will be officially reviewing it and approving it next month, but it's an important part of what we need to do and what we should have in place, because while we rely upon the Lake County Sheriff's Department and the Barrington Countryside and Wakanda Fire Departments as our main support, since we don't have those, nor a Public Works Department, Cuba Township, it's very, very important that we outline what happens if. And we've been very fortunate that what happens if has not happened. But we could have a tornado, we could have an ice storm, we could have 50 inches of snow this winter. We could have all kinds of scenarios in which an emergency operating plan is necessary. So this is crucial, and I thank you very much for putting that together. The Lake County Sheriff's Department, as Deputy Stankiewicz just indicated, it appears as if some of the problems that we experienced earlier this year have either been eliminated or reduced. I understand some people have been taken into custody regarding it, whether or not they were involved in some of the incidents, undetermined. I'll go to Mr. Mitchell. You want me to continue?
Yeah, just
Wrap it up. As far as Barrington Countryside and Wakanda Fire Departments, I've gone to both of their board meetings, not much is going on. I am surprised that we talk about our tax levy not going up in 5 years. I find it interesting that fire departments can raise their tax levy to the maximum almost each year if they want, and sometimes that's substantial. So we rely upon them for our protection, but it's still interesting as far as the control sometimes, I think, on some of the tax levy that takes place. As far as gated communities, not much activity in Tallgrass. It's kind of slowed down with this time of year, although they do have a couple new models, and if you're driving through, Kathleen Schwan over there would be happy to show you those new models. The Enclave is having a homeowners annual meeting coming up this month. I plan on attending that. And Lake Barrington Shores, talking about units that haven't been upgraded in 25 years, leading into you. There are a few of those in Lake Barrington Shores, so. And sales, just from the interesting, there have been 92 listed in the multiple listing service that have been sales this year in LBS, with an average of 269,000, about equal to last year, the 1,317 that are in the property. End of my report. All yours, sir.
Questions for Trustee Shallow?
I just have a comment, and that is, looking through this plan, there's a delineation of responsibility, and I think that's really important. That's laid out pretty well. The other thing I recommend is at some point in time, in the next 2 or 3 months, once this is finalized, we do a train walk, sit down and talk about how we do this.
I think it would be an excellent idea. I mean, Baycon is doing their tabletop. We're doing that in January, but I think it's important you have this so that you're more familiar with it and what happens if.
Yeah, we can do it like
It doesn't have, it's
That's
a
a
scenario.
really good idea. After the tabletop exercises.
It's nice to have eyeball contact with this.
It is, yeah.
It's important if you look what's going on in California and what's happening in Florida and Georgia and Carolinas. This is important
Yeah,
stuff.
it's important.
There's still areas,
And we're the ones responsible.
Yes.
because there's still areas down there, they don't have cell phone service yet.
Yeah.
Imagine how we function.
Very good, thank you.
Trustee Mitchell, the floor.
We're back.
turn to you.
Hopefully we're back live. All right. One of the, yes. I want to talk about our role as a trustee, as a steward. And if you look back, a steward was the person who in medieval times brought the food and all the things into the banquet hall for the people to eat all their needs and met all of those. It came from the translation from the Latin, the sty or stew, to a ward or a guard. And the idea that flows from that for us is an ethical and legal responsibility. Protect, maintain, and manage the village asset for our shareholders, our residents and taxpayers. Think keeper, guardian, servant, and protector. So we went to Sharp Architects, and they brought in RTM Engineering and Shell McNutt Construction as well to give us an idea of what needed to be done on these properties. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We've got incredible value from this building today. When we say you don't do anything for 25 years, what happens? Systems are long overdue for work. We have significant deferred maintenance that needs to be done. Some immediate issues for life safety. I sort of looked at this report and said, what is critical right now? And there are a couple of things that stick out. One that we knew about and we discovered the HVAC system was not producing heat, but producing carbon monoxide and some other things, a lot of combustion gases that were dangerous. So that first one is all set. And we're working on the others, getting a HVAC, the heating and AC system, up to snuff. And that's a comfort issue as well for the people who are here every day working when it's 18 degrees outside, or the opposite. Electrical, there's several lighting fixtures that need attention immediately that have either arced or overheated, and they need to be replaced, particularly on that side of the building, the administrative wing toward the garage door and that section. So those are things that pronto, ASAP, you go and you fix them. The kitchen oven and stove I'd never thought about. There are no sprinklers in that section, and you have 25-year-old electrical appliances that were not made to be used like that. They are fortunately not used that much by staff, I'm told, if at all. And one of the things we'll talk about that need to be done on a longer term list is taking that out and putting in an adequate convection microwave and a nice, or convection oven, toaster oven, microwave, etc. Simple things that people need to have a good place to work, to be able to heat up their lunch or their leftovers or whatever. But those are just some things that need to be addressed pronto. Buildings built in 1993, and Karen's gotten me numbers that it's hard to find. We need an historian now. 731,000 was the construction lien, and adding the furnishing, so we're up close to $1 million 25 years ago. So if you divide that, we've done fairly well. We've gotten good use out of the building. It still has a tremendous amount of useful life. The metal-shaped roof was replaced in 2012. It's in great shape now. Those have a 30 to 50 year. Our RFP asked for a 30-year warranty. The shingles that were installed, the inspectors thought they were a 50-year version, so we don't have to worry about that part of the roof. There is another section we'll talk about. Parking lot drainage, thank you, has been replaced and taken care of, and maybe we'll get another 25 years out of that. Would be wonderful. Most of the equipment, the systems are still original. The HVAC replacement system has begun. There's been some painting, but it's the same color scheme from 25 years ago. Carpets, flooring, bathrooms, everything from 1993 are starting to show their wear. The carpet is coming apart at the seams, as you will notice behind you, and all the other sections. The vinyl composite tile is dissolving and is worn out. There's nothing left there to stand on a lot of places. If you look at it in terms of how do we break this into reasonable chunks, and I'm a little worried having my back to our treasurer back here, but
Don't worry, I'm paying very good attention.
there's not an easy way to do this, but I'm looking at it in terms, and I've been wanting to do this for a while, 5-year plan, the deferred maintenance catch-up for us. What do we need to get done that is critical to saving the building for another 25 years? 10-year maintenance and capital improvement. What will need to be done as we look ahead past the time that most of us may be here? And beyond that, maintenance and replacement. Think about, what are we going to pass down, so to speak? How do we manage that? Priority recommendations. What I've said is the first priority, number 1, is to complete or undertake ASAP, some of those things I just mentioned. And number 2 priority is within 2 to 3 years. And number 3 is within 5 years, roughly. Some things you will see as a number 3 may need to move to a number 2. Some as a number 2 may need to move to a number 1. A priority 3, these are just some examples, this is not the full report. The chairs in the boardroom and the community room are worn out and are starting to, because of the sun, drying out and creak and crackle, and everything else is gone. The chairs, the dais for, I actually typed it and come out of there, sorry about that, for the board members. That foam, Susie, you may not be familiar with this, you wonder why there's this 6-inch piece of foam. Because the chairs have no support, and if you take that foam out, you're like the little kid at the lunch counter. You can't see over the dais there. And that was a temporary thing. Except for the ramp on this side, the dais, desk level, and the chairs are not ADA compliant. So if we had someone visiting, or another meeting held here, or a trustee, we would not be in compliance on those areas. The ceiling tiles, if you've noticed, if you happen to go to Karen's office, she's talking too much and you look up, you'll see some of the other offices as well, and there's no point in doing that until we make sure the leak that caused it, it could be from the roof, it could be from pipe, it could be from something else, is repaired. Other priority threes. The wall finishes, we need new updated colors. And it's, you know, at your house, a coat of paint will make a huge difference. I worry about, the depressive feeling of being in this room for a long time with all of you. Not because of you, but because of the paint and the darkness. Mauve is no longer a hot, comforting color. I don't know that it ever was. The lobby fireplace needs to be inspected and repaired. It's not working. It could be a nice thing to have some chairs out there, be able to sit, have an informal meeting. Minor issues with doors. These doors here, there's a problem with them locking and staying locked. Storage, desk, file cabinets, the workflow in the administrative section of the office. We are being overtaken by paper. They are already on this, looking for vendors to look at filing systems, scanning the larger things so that we don't have to have this incredible sort of Hogwarts library operating there. So they're working on that. Desk and tables will have to be done as a redesign of the office space, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. And finally, roofing. There's a low slope section, and if I can see where, it's in between here and the other section that goes out from there. There is almost a flat roof section. You don't see it because of the two peaks coming together. That section has a different substance. It's a flat rubber roofing, or slightly, almost flat. That was done a while back as well, and it has probably a 10-year life on it. So it's going to take some maintenance, cleaning, everything else to keep it going. That's probably 2022 to 2027 if we maintain it. The flooring, the tile and the grout, once again, some of those colors are a little scary. They need to be professionally cleaned, steam cleaned, and the grout resealed. And it will make a dramatic difference and give us some life for a couple of $1,000 versus 10 to 12 to redo all the tile and stuff. The bathroom fixtures, as you know, with stall doors, these things need to be dealt with. The sinks, the valves on the toilets and things. I would hate to have a problem to go replace one of the fixtures right now, because the minute they try to turn off the valves, you notice the blue corrosion and all this stuff. It's the whole thing. So you know this from this at home. The degraded vinyl tiles, replace those with a carpet square system, which then when there's a spill, a tear, or you drop something and it's ruined, you can replace one section of carpet as a tile and do that. And then particularly in the office, we keep getting these long runners that are like, you pull and you think the whole carpet's going to come up. The worn, torn, stained carpets as well, near Lisa's area in the front there. Within the next 2 to 5 years is a priority too. The administrative area, the rough estimate for that is about $12,500. The public areas that we're in here, roughly $14,000. These are 2018. This is if you went out right now to do these things. Exterior windows and doors is one of the biggest concerns. The seals are broken. You notice why the windows are cloudy, particularly in this back section, the doors that go out. They're actually swinging doors past the fireplace and everything there. That we don't want to take a chance on opening them because I don't know that we would ever get them sealed back up again. The seals are broken, the gaskets, all of these things on these. And in the community room in particular, water has leaked in and has degraded the floor tile, gone through the floor tile into the ductwork and into the cement and caused spalling and efflorescence from the inside floor, the slab floor. The wall, some of the wall board has gotten wet around the doors, and then you have a mold potential issue there to deal with. Budget for replacement for the next 2 years for all of the windows and things, $135,000. So this is what, I'd wait for Peggy to throw something at me at this point. All right, priority 1 issues. The water infiltration damaging the structure from the windows, the doors, the things that aren't sealing. In particular, the office, if you go into the offices on this side that run right out through here, there's a strip, and I've looked at it several times and sort of saw what was wrong, but didn't quite understand the cause. The siding, the brick siding on the back is a brick veneer and sheets. 4 by 8 so sheets were put up on top of each other. There's a course of brick in between, which is recessed. Looks fine, it looks like a real brick job. It's not. So with that situation, there should be a drainage area for water that comes off the windows, comes off the side of the building to run down through little channels. At the top where they put in the windows, there's none of that. So what happened is underneath the windows, it whistles, the wind whistles in, the water blows in, all along almost all of those windows now. And over the years, there's examples where somebody's tried to caulk, try to do something, and it does no good because it's where the window is sitting on a piece of cement and brick, and there's nothing in there at all. So that's part of the window issue as well. Clean and tuck point the face brick on the building, $25,500 as an estimate. But that's how we're going to have to stop the water infiltration. There are no expansion joints in many of the brick sections, in particular where the building comes into corners with brick. So the brick face has cracked all the way through, and eventually as water gets in, it will fall off. So we will lose the corners of the building. That's estimated another $14,000. To consider the windows and doors as the priority, you would move them up to a priority 1, and you've got all that. So it's a huge list to look at that. There's some additional work that needs to be done. If you've noticed what looks like stucco on the sides and it goes across at the door opening here is EIFS, an external insulation finishing system. Basically, it's the old dry fit, but the safer version, where they just took wire, foam, and then put stucco over it. This has insulation and the foam and the stucco and channels behind it for drainage. It has a limited life, and we are pushing its useful life. It needs to be painted and recaulked all the way around, and that's not an inexpensive priority as well. Prep and paint the exterior insulation finish system and continue replacement of the HVAC systems. One of the things that really needs to be done for the safety of all of us and the health of our employees who are here is the ductwork and the diffusers need to be cleaned. They've not been cleaned. And that's a consideration when you're redoing, because once you replace the furnace system, everything breaks loose and moves back into the ductwork, all of that stuff. There needs to be a pressure balance system and inline fans and vents. So this is why, or this is how this room stays at one temperature and the others stay at another, et cetera, as you go through the systems. In your house, you may have a variable speed fan that comes on regularly to keep air moving. There is a system here, but it's 25 years old, right in this room inside the ductwork. And it's not even accessible without taking out the ductwork. So we need to look at that while we're doing the furnace systems. Disconnect the stove and the oven and the kitchenette pronto, an electrician who can come and fix the other lights, so that we don't have an issue of not necessarily someone using the stove, but someone bumping into it, moving boxes, turn the burner on, and it's Friday afternoon, or the oven, the same sort of thing.
Does that include the microwave?
No. There is the kitchenette system is units that were put in with the metal drain board, the sink, the stove, like they used them in efficiency apartments and buildings. It's the same sort of system.
Lived in one, Washington, D.C.
Exactly. Repair, replace, seal, stain the exterior siding, decking, louvers, and other items as required. We power washed this deck before our pictures last year or whenever it was. But the deck did not then get stained. And once you can either let the stuff age and weather, or you can treat it, but once you strip it again, you need to restain it or seal it or paint it. And boards are starting to rot and need to be replaced, repaired, the railing, that sort of stuff. Electrical upgrades, inspections, safety concerns throughout. We are not sure. We've been really fortunate with our emergency exit lights. We don't, we just don't know if they're going to hold up, and don't know if some have had batteries replaced, some have not. But with the electrical work and all the other things, we need to push these issues. This is your scope of work estimates. I'm not going to go into the detail. It's in the full report. But this gives you an idea. If you put all of these things together, do you have heart medicine? Okay, yeah. This is the exterior scope of work. So it's like the guy buying the new car, it's like, oh, I want everything on it. The exterior, the envelope of the building, everything that keeps the water, the outside out, they give an estimate of $277,000. So if they did everything in a perfect world. The administrative wing improvements. Now understand these are estimates from construction and contractors and engineers and everything else. And I'll know this from doing several houses and redoing the houses. They give allowances and they say this and this much to reattach everything and to reconnect. So some of these numbers have a lot of give in them. If you go through all of that, that is including furniture and things like this that they want to put in, the mechanical issues, the electrical issues, that's $124,000 to do what needs to be done with the administrative wing. And the public wing, the section we're in, the community room, the hall, the bathrooms, all of those things, get you through replacing it. This is why I said it's got everything. Replace the board chairs, fix the desk in here, all this stuff. So a lot more stuff than we would put those things, or I would put those things in a nice to do category. They're not, they don't make the priority list. Because I think I would much rather make sure no water gets in the building and that it's safe than worry about where our butts sit on. The foam cushions, we got used to them, they worked out just fine. So if you get to all of that, that's $237,000. So if you look at this in those terms, I'm going to go ahead a little bit here. $639,000 would make this building like new. We can't afford to make it like new, so we need to look at these lists, decide what the priorities are, decide how much money we can find, and start knocking them off based on priorities, much like we did very successfully with the roads, where we graded the issue, what needed to be done. This is an A1, this is a B3, this is a C5, whatever, and do them as we have money. We can't just write a check and plunk this down. We have to be responsible stewards of what we're doing there. And let's see if I can jinx myself by asking it to go backwards, but let's try. Yes, all right. This is a little tough to see, but imagine you are standing above the administrative wing over here. Karen is here. Kevin's office, the mayor's office, finance, building coordinator, the workroom, the kitchenette, the files, the Hogwarts library, permit review, and Peggy, Lisa, and the front reception. So there we are. One of the things that, as I said, we look at comfort, we look at life safety, look at those things, and I think we've always been concerned, and I would continue to be concerned that we have an efficient, effective place for people to work. Not that, there have to be a pool table, it has to be like, high tech in California and there's foosball and everything else, but you should be able to have enough space to do your job. And you should have a place to store stuff so that you don't have to fall getting in and out from behind your desk because of the papers or the files or the building plans or whatever. Or you have enough room to spread out things. So, oops, and come on, do that. One of the options that they've come up with is to rearrange that space that we have. That's always the first thing. Same outline. Karen's office becomes the building department coordinator and the permit review area. So a lot of the stuff that's sitting there where you are, Peggy, moves over into that, the largest of the offices. The second office down, which is currently the mayor's world headquarters, becomes the village administrator's office. Next office is still Debbie. Then the mayor's office moves to where Erica is. And the workroom stays the same with some tweaking out here. The kitchenette comes out and you put in what's needed, a reasonable working sink and the appliances that you need. You have the ability to have a table, lunch table if that's something they're interested in, etc. You work out so that there's a safe area to transgress through the hall. File storage is the same. The treasurer has a large area, large enough to hold all the stuff you're working on at any one time. And storage, computer screens. A little tweaking around the executive assistant, front desk, everything stays the same. Except one of those life safety issues is a better panic button and an easily accessible panic button for the front desk. So that, I forgot to put that on the sheet. So that's one of the options that they came up with, and I think is really a workable solution. If someone will just hog tie Kevin and let us move his office down the hall. All right, next steps. Discuss and set priorities, figure out what it is that we think we need to do as stewards. Determine the budget and schedule of work. Establish the source of funds. Seek RFPs and bid for the work in any of the larger projects that we decide to tackle. And further, we need to create an annual maintenance schedule. That's easy. It can be an Excel spreadsheet, it can be in a calendar program, anything that just says, whoop, it's this year, it's time to have the roof inspected, the flat part swept off, resealed. It's time to have the vents cleaned. It's time to have these things done, which we haven't done. And it's no reflection on anybody. It's just, you got other things to do. And then we need to conduct a similar assessment for Friar Farm. Just as we made a good decision that the house was not worth keeping from a maintenance management perspective, we need to look at all the facilities out there.
Can we use off-site storage for all those old files in that room and then use that space to create more workspace?
That's not really needed more workspace. We need more efficient workspace, and that part of that's going to come from changing our processes. As we migrate toward a computerized system for building permits and contractors' licenses, et cetera, and change the way we do business, some of that paper storage will go away.
And how many letters went out to people to get their building plans or they were going to be destroyed? Several hundred.
I can't remember, but that program's over now, so
Right.
we went through that. And also, you know, if you're talking about maintenance, part of it is of getting permission from the Secretary of State every so often to destroy the files we're allowed to. We've done that. It's just a matter of staff time now to go through those files and make sure that we only destroy what we're allowed to destroy. So it's basically, so that becomes a long project as well, you know, to get rid of that paper. So we're trying to, you know, it'll take a while to catch up to that, but to be caught up.
Right.
So.
And I think we can. It's going to take a lot of work, a lot of effort, and time, intern time or something. fine. So any other questions? I appreciate your indulging me this much
Thank you.
time, but I think it was worth getting it out in front of us.
I want to thank you for all the work that you put into this. You know, we got the sharp architects, but you've done a lot since then, so thank you very much.
My pleasure. And I've still got my honey-do list, so.
I sent Chris on the list.
So, Chris, I'm presuming you'll huddle with Randy and with Peggy and Karen and Debbie. That's a big nut to choke down, and so would welcome thoughtful recommendations jointly from Randy as chair of finance and you as advised by Peggy and Karen. How quickly do we try to swallow this apple? How many pieces do we cut it into? I'm not asking you to do it to give me that tonight.
No, but I think that's it. And the things that I listed as a number one priority, that cut list for life safety, things I don't have to worry about somebody getting electrocuted, starting a fire, or tripping over something. Those are sort of,
Well, it's a good time to bring this up. We're starting the budget pretty soon.
We're only 5 months to our calendar year, obviously, so.
Yeah.
and I don't mean to
Peggy,
be.
do you have a just a non-binding, won't hold you to it, guesstimate as to how you think we ought to plan on?
Well, I guess one of my other concerns is that, we've used up all the operating funds on open space, and we'll need to fund operations at the new fire farm, whether it be little things like, mowing the lawn or taking care of property at fire farm. So those items will also be on the general fund this year. So that's another drain on, to the budget.
Yeah.
That I'm concerned about, both of these at once.
And that gets too personal, maybe even political. One of the things that frustrates me in the government system in Illinois, coming from Massachusetts and North Carolina and New Hampshire even prior to that, is that every little village of 1,200 to 4,000 to 5,000 has their own village hall and has these things to maintain. And it's, as these facilities age, they become albatrosses to have to manage. And you have to say, all right, it's $488,000 for our police service. Well, how much is it to maintain the building? We're smart enough not to have our own police force or road department, but how do we manage all these other things? And this is where Kevin and I used to differ, is that, wait a minute, this is not our money.
Right.
And that's why I refer to it as shareholders. Everybody who pays their tax percentage is a shareholder, and, I don't need them showing up and saying, my God, why did you put in these fancy desks and these incredibly comfortable chairs with this 6-inch foam, But I think we can do this reasonably and ethically as a steward for their shareholders. But we owe it to the people who in the late 80s, early 90s built this building. And we owe it to the future generations who move into Lake Barrington because they want to be here.
Well, I've seen this in industry so much where deferred maintenance, I've inherited businesses in the same situation, so the sticker shock is always there. But if you really break this down, and if you say, the reality of it is for a $20,000 or $25,000 maintenance investment every year, you wouldn't have this situation.
Exactly.
So if you break it down that way and said, if we had invested over that period of time $20,000 a year in this building with our list, then we wouldn't have this. We would only have a continuing $20,000 or $25,000 maintenance budget, right?
Every year.
Or whatever it is.
Much more.
So now we're swallowing that pill just because. So the other way, as I've explained to business owners, is, well, you got a nice free ride. In other words, you're proud of the way you managed your budget, but the reality of it is, in effect, you were not paying the piper, right? So I've explained to business owners, you didn't update your IT for 10 years, so now that I'm asking for, $5 million to do it if you had just stayed current. So you enjoy really prosperous years because you defer maintenance, if you will.
Yep.
For paper, right?
And that's, the solution to try to keep the mice out of the building from coming in was to go out here, somebody with steel wool and push in and some other things. Now, I'm talking the old steel wool that's rusted. But that was it. Okay, well, had you just brought in somebody that could have sealed off where our pipes go in and out of our building again, we wouldn't have had the mouse damage. And then the same thing for under $1,000, we could have fixed the gasket around the garage door, the roll-up door, and kept the critters out on that side of the building. But it's just short-sighted.
To tag on to what Andy just talked about, the maintenance is a prudent use of capital, and the longer you defer it, the bigger the bow engines in front of the boat. And so that's what you just described, this huge bow wave we've got here comes from that. But he's also right, if we can get over that hump and then think longer term about budgeting for maintenance. Simple, like these lights right here. These need to be turned into LED lights.
Yep.
And it'll reduce your energy consumption. There's a whole bunch of things you can do as you go through this.
It's huge what we can do. And there are, reading this and then doing some research, for example, in replacing the lights, there is a 40 cent per, there's a formula that, you're eligible for from the state, from the government, there are all these things that are out there that instead, we've been in here Mickey Mouse and tinkering around with lights for 12 years.
But this begs the question that we were talking about in the committee of the whole that Andy led us through, which was the discussion on economic development. If we are earning the sales tax revenue to finance village obligations, including regular maintenance, that's where I hear General Rigby speaking, because that's your experience. Yeah, and so, hell, it's no different than the state and the state's problem with retiree pension benefits. They skip too many years of making their pension contribution. And now they're in a very deep situation. So I'm of the mind that if we can continue to have the success in the economic development side that I think is realistic given the great work that Andy's doing with Kathleen and with Karen, then we might be able to do this, borrowing a little bit from our reserves and soliciting successful new ventures that will generate income that will offset this. There's a conversation with the public that needs to occur about this, and we don't have to place blame and point fingers at those. This is the situation. I'm not interested in blame assignment, at least not right now. I'm interested in problem solution. And certainly anything that has to do with public health and safety in this building has to be addressed, and it has to be addressed properly. Everybody kind of agree with that?
Yeah, it's similar. You look at Lake Barrington shores of the condo associations, and many of them over the years didn't reserve properly. Now they play catch up in having to do the maintenance. And I know I'm in our association, our one association, we just spent $600,000 on staining, siding replacement, new gutters, fence repair, and we had $270,000 in reserves. We still had to borrow $325,000 to complete the project. So sooner or later, you got to face what's necessary, and I think we just have to face it one way or the other. It's necessary.
Our house, we now paint one side at a time because we have to replace so many of the cedar clapboards.
Yeah, well,
it's like, okay, what year is it for this side? We rotate around, so by the time you get back, you have to paint again. But we can do it.
I was going to add a few comments. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
I think, Kevin, your comment is very good, is that reserves are very strong here. And that's something to keep in mind as well. I think we're over 79 months, and as I've mentioned in the past, GFOA recommends 3 months reserve, so the reserves are very strong. Just like your roads, this is a village asset. Maybe you talk about it in tangent with the village roads and that road program, and you worked it together in terms of, that's your biggest sort of expense that every year is decided upon, what to fix, whether it be roads, whether it be the building. So I think you can tie those two together. Without our road program, our annual expenses are between $2.2 and $2.5 million. $600,000, that's a lot, of our annual expenditure.
Percentage.
Yeah. So that's on a couple of years, but I think if you're working with the road program and talk about the reserves that we have, it's doable.
Well, that reserve, in effect, can be a loan to ourselves.
Absolutely.
Right.
Mhm.
And we say it's not our intent to keep the reserve at this level indefinitely, but we're going to borrow against that reserve and then work it back to a more.
Be our own bank.
Be our own bank and
Right.
avoid all
The state's
that.
doing that as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's not reckless at all. And, no, I agree with that. I mean, I think you've started a great conversation, and we need a clear path on those critical priorities and what it's going to take. And I think we would all agree that the critical things that are health, safety related, but also those things where we know there's significant deterioration of the property, that's only going to get, the bow wave is only going to get bigger. I think if we lump all those things, I don't think it would be that hard for this group to come to agreement for the difference between must-haves and nice-to-haves in a big hurry. So once you've developed those must-haves, and you break it down, you say, well, what order of magnitude is that? And it might be as simple as we all agree, we're just gonna dig into that reserve and we're gonna go fix our must-haves, because that's easy. If it's 100,000 or if it's 200,000, because there is no compromise. And we can't live with ourselves if something happens and we were all perfectly aware of these things and decided we couldn't afford to address it, then we create a bigger problem for ourselves. So I think we can systematically get after it, and then the makeup for the rest of it, which is, well, how do you make it up? You can say, well, the rest could be done over a 5 to 10 year period. If normal maintenance would be 25,000, it's going to be 50. So we're going to have to figure out how to pay for the other 25. But we're going to get it back in line, and then eventually it's going to line up. It's going to be back to a manageable number. It's just going to be going over that hump, right? So we can get there, and I applaud you for. I mean, this is one of those where you don't stop and think about it, and and then it's revealed to you. It's frightening, right? But
When I first got the report, I was like, oh my God.
it's what we used to call either the aha moment or what we call the brutal truth, right? Where you tell a business owner, here's the real truth about what's going on. It's not your assets. Yeah, here's the real truth.
That's it. And at any point, if anybody's interested, as you think about this, let's do this over, I'll be glad to show you things. You want to see the brick, you want to see the cracks, you want to see, I'll do it all. And I will say that the section of the building that has an attic, it's not really attic, but it's closed off space that was not inspected, could be, actually is where some of our ceiling tiles would leak, or staining and things. So there's lots of little unknowns. But we'll deal with them as we come to them. But I'll be glad to go over anything. I have a lot of confidence in the architects we did choose, and I think we made a good choice because it's
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
So would the next step be then for you and Karen and Peggy to start working on the must-haves? Specifically about, what that's going to cost us and what the time procedure is to get that done. And so we can look at, as Andy said, the reserves and see where they would fit in at that point. And then plan the rest of it out over 5, 6, 7 years.
absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for so much time.
Thank you very much.
I wouldn't have taken that much if I didn't think.
No.
Oh, no.
Essential.
That just, you all did a wonderful job. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Further questions for Trustee Miller? If not, we can move to 11H, roads and infrastructure.
I'm sure everything's fine. We don't need anything.
Nothing to say.
The road just got better overnight.
Right.
Roads are fantastic.
I just have to complain about
You
my
know the roads.
Colorado.
Best report tonight?
Yeah, right. And the quickest.
In please.
Is that do you really want to have a report?
I really don't know.
All right.
Well, okay, well, that's a piece of good news I hadn't anticipated.
She didn't say everything's fine, she just said she didn't have a report.
Yeah.
There's no reason to add insult to injury.
Yeah, that great philosopher Sergeant Hans Schultz had it right. I know nothing. Agenda item 12, there is no old business, so we can move to 13A, employee policy manual revisions. Is this a Mr. Bateman or a Ms. Dalton-Lang? Okay.
It's Mr. Bateman.
General Assembly recently amended the period of time during which someone has the opportunity to file a complaint with the Illinois Department of Human Rights. That complaint period changed from 180 days to 300 days. That impacts the language of our sexual harassment policy in our employee manual. And so this is just adopting a small change in the village's longstanding sexual harassment policy to change the complaint period that's stated in there.
So we're just basically updating village code to match state law.
Update village code and employee manual to match the state law.
Okay. Questions for council? Okay, there being none, the chair would like a motion to approve ordinance number 2018-0-23. Thank you. An ordinance amending the Lake Barrington Village Code, Chapter 6, quote, municipal officers and employees, quote, Title I, Administration and Adoption of Amended and Restated Employment Policy. And I have that motion.
So moved.
By Trustee Schauer, second, please.
Second.
By Trustee Thompson. Thank you both, gentlemen. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby?
Aye.
President Richardson?
Yes. Thank you. 13C, Village Administrator Spending Authority. We talked about this in Committee of the Whole. This is just to adjust to the reality of our day-to-day needs. I think we've discussed this to our mutual satisfaction. Is there any question on this before I call the question? Mr. Baker, anything you want to add on this?
No, I think, I think originally when we talked about this at the last Committee of the Whole, it was to talk about the $25,000 authority. Village Administrator Karen Dalton did not think that was necessary. And, this, she felt, that, I don't want to speak for her, but she felt this was adequate to cover the village's needs.
Peggy, as treasurer, are you okay with this?
Yeah, I think it's well overdue.
Good. Then Chair would like a motion to approve ordinance number 2018-0-24. Correct. Thank you, Pam. An ordinance amending the Lake Barrington Village Code, Chapter 6, quote, municipal officers and employees, quote, Title I, Administration, Section 1-6-5, Village Administrator. May I have that motion, please?
Roll call, please.
May I have the motion, please?
Oh, yes.
No,
May I
have a second, please?
Good morning.
You were at a party fighting over a little bit of James. Clerk will please call the roll.
Trustee Mitchell?
Yes.
Trustee Rigby? Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Perkins?
Yes.
Trustee Schaller?
Yes.
Trustee Thompson?
Yes.
President Richardson?
Yes, you're not as thick as I drunk you are. There are no resolutions under agenda item 14, so we can go to 15A, appointment of Trustee Jim Thompson as our second alternate to BACOG for board meeting purposes. With my travel schedule and Chris's, Janet Agnoletti, the executive director, has recommended that we have an additional alternate, which makes imminent sense. And the reason I've asked Jim to do this, and I'm grateful for his willingness to step up, is his committee assignment as chair of community relations and special events and veterans fair makes him natural for this.
And they love it.
Yeah, he's a natural. He's just a natural.
I would just like to notice that Trustee Mitchell, I don't think since I've been a trustee, has actually done one of the meetings.
That was just at one Monday night.
Last year.
You're the first one. You're the first one.
So going forward, the administrator will circulate all her. Janet is good about doing all three of us, and then we can flip the coin. Because I like to go when I'm able to do so, but I appreciate the fact that you guys will cover us. So now I'm getting as bad as you. Did I call this question?
No, you didn't.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a motion. These two were bickering.
Yeah,
Right, it's, kids are fighting, yeah. If I want to hear argument, I'll go home. Motion to approve the appointment of trustee Jim Thompson as second alternate to vote at ACOG meetings in the absence of President Richardson and trustee Mitchell. May I have the motion? All those in favor, excuse me. Do I have to have a roll call on this?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. One.
Raise your hand quick enough, Jim.
There is there's no new business under, rather 15B is the second opportunity, the agenda for the public to address the board. No one seeks resignation. There is no closed session. So my favorite motion, Chair, would like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor? Okay.